All right, let's start with a little visualization exercise.
Mm,
I want you to picture your business's standard invoice.
okay.
You know, the one, I mean, your logo, maybe top left,
Yeah.
that very specific font you picked out.
The payment terms at the bottom, your signature, all of that.
Exactly. Now imagine your best client gets an email with an invoice attached. It looks identical to yours, pixel perfect,
Same tone, same sign off.
everything. If that client paid it, would they have any reason at all to suspect it wasn't you?
Honestly, if you're just going on what you can see, no, not a clue.
And that, right there, is the core of the research we are diving into today. It's titled The Ghost in the Invoice.
And this isn't some, theoretical future tech trend. This is happening to businesses right now.
That's the key point. This has
Mm.
moved way beyond the sort of smash and grab tactics we used to think of.
Right. And what's so interesting about the source material is how it frames the problem. It's not really a hacker problem in the classic sense. It's a process failure.
A process failure, how so?
Well, it highlights how email has sort of quietly morphed from just a communication tool into, well, the backbone of our financial system.
And that shift has created a huge vulnerability that most people just aren't looking at.
Exactly. We think of cyber attacks as like a firewall breach or a password getting guessed technical failure. But this report says the real weak spot is the workflow itself.
So let's define the threat. The source lays out this nightmare scenario where a customer pays an invoice, the money is gone, but the business never sees a dime of it. How does that actually play out?
To get it, you have to understand a specific type of cybercrime. It's called BEC, Business Email Compromise.
GC, okay.
In this ghost in the invoice scenario, the attackers aren't trying to, crash your servers or lock your files with ransomware.
Right, those are noisy attacks. The
Right.
screen goes red, you get a countdown timer demanding Bitcoin. It's an obvious crisis.
It is. But BAC is a quiet hack. The whole goal is silence. They get access to a business email account, maybe from a phishing link, something that looked legit, and then they do something really, really unsettling.
They do wait.
They wait. This is that concept of dwell time the report mentions, and it's fascinating. They don't just log in and start blasting out spam.
Because that would blow their cover immediately.
Instantly. So once they're inside, they just watch. They go into a surveillance phase. They read your sent emails. They study how you write.
You sign off with best or cheers or...
Well, sincerely, do you ask about the client's kids? They're mapping out your entire digital behavior. They're building a profile.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate for a second. We're told constantly, use two-factor authentication, use strong passwords. If I have 2FA on, how are they getting in quietly? Should my phone be buzzing with a code?
That's a great question, and it really gets at the sophistication here. 2FA is absolutely essential, but it's not a silver bullet.
Yep.
Hackers use what are called adversary-in-the-middle attacks. They basically create a perfect copy of the login page. You type your code into their fake site
And they just pass it through to the real site in real time.
and capture the session token. Or, a lot of times they'll find an old forgotten account that doesn't have 2FA enforced and use that to move around internally. The point is, once they have that access, they are completely invisible.
So they're in the house, just listening to the conversation.
Yeah.
What's the trigger for the actual theft?
The trigger is you. It's the legitimate invoice. They wait for you, the business owner, to send a real bill to a real client for a decent amount of money.
And they let that real email go through.
They let it go through. Then maybe an hour later, maybe the next day, they send a follow-up. It comes from your account, or a spoofed one that looks identical.
And the message itself?
It's so mundane. It's something like, so sorry, just realized I sent the old banking details on that last invoice. Please use these updated wiring instructions instead.
And the client, they've already got the first email. This just looks like a correction in the same thread.
So the context makes it seem completely credible. They're not going to analyze the email header. They're just trying to get the bill paid.
So they update the routing number, send the wire.
And the money goes straight to an account the hackers control. By the time you even realize the payment is late, that money has been laundered through 3 or 4 other accounts. It's gone.
Wow. So it's not even hacking code, really. They're hacking the trust between the two people.
Precisely. And that brings us to what the source calls the accelerator. Because scams like this, they've been around for a while.
Right.
But the scale was always limited by human capacity. You needed a person to read the emails, to write the fake ones, to get the timing right.
It was a manual labor job. But now we have the AI factor.
We do. And the source argues AI has just completely changed the economics of this kind of fraud. We're seeing large language models, LLMs, being used to analyze inbox content at incredible speeds.
So instead of a person reading my emails, an AI is scanning them.
Yes, and it's looking for two things: intent and financial value. An AI can scan thousands of emails in seconds to figure out which ones are invoices, which are high value, and who the key people are. It builds a target list almost instantly.
But it's more than just identification, right? Because we all used to spot scams from the bad grammar, the dear beloved sir emails.
Those days they're basically over. These new models are trained on perfect syntax, but what's really dangerous is they can do style matching.
What does it mean exactly?
If the AI analyzes your last 500 emails and sees you use a lot of emojis and really short sentences, guess what?
The fraudulent email is going to have emojis and short sentences.
Exactly. If you're super formal and use legal jargon, it will mimic that perfectly. It's essentially cloning your digital personality.
It creates a synthetic mask that you can't tell apart from the real person.
And that just lowers the barrier to entry so much. You don't need to be a fluent English speaker anymore. You don't need to understand American business culture. The AI handles all of that.
So we have these high-tech tools being used for these very high-trust crimes. And on that note, the source material zeroes in on a very specific target sector.
It does.
Trade businesses, contractors, builders, service providers. Why them? I mean, banks have money, tech companies have money. Why is a construction company the prime target here?
It all comes down to the ROI for the attacker, the return on intrusion. And the source breaks it down into three pretty logical reasons.
Okay.
First, and most simply, is the transaction size.
The invoices are just bigger.
Right. If you hack someone's Netflix account, you get $20. If you intercept an invoice from a home builder for materials or a project milestone, that could be $50,000, $80,000 or more.
One successful hit could pay for their whole operation for a year.
Easily. So that's high yield. The second factor is predictable billing cycles.
Oh, right. 30% down, 30% at rough end, 40 at completion.
Exactly. Those patterns are incredibly easy for an algorithm to learn and then predict when the next big payment is coming. But the third reason is the most important one.
And it is.
The culture of trust in the trades. The relationship aspect. Think about it. A contractor is in your house, they're fixing your roof, you probably know their first name, you know their crew. There's this high degree of informal trust built in.
So when you get an email from Dave the electrician, you're not thinking about cybersecurity protocols.
You're thinking about getting the lights turned back on.
That's a really good point. The very informality of the industry actually becomes a vulnerability here. It almost feels rude to, double-check Dave's email headers.
And the attackers exploit that social pressure. They know you just want to be a good client and pay your bill on time.
Which leads us to the core argument of this whole deep dive, this huge conceptual shift about email itself. The source states, and I'm quoting here, email is no longer just communication. It's a financial system.
That is the big aha moment in the text. We still treat our email like it's a chat room. We use it to say happy birthday or plan lunch.
But in that same inbox, we're sending routing numbers and tax documents.
We're mixing social chatter with bank-grade data. And we're doing it on a platform that was never, ever designed for financial security. Email was built for deliverability, not secrecy.
Yeah.
If you treated your physical wallet the way most businesses treat their email, leaving it open on a park bench, you'd expect to be robbed.
So if email is the new financial rail, and these ghosts are using AI to hide on it, what is the actual defense? The source is very blunt about this. It says, being careful isn't enough.
It just isn't. And I think that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of smart, confident people. We all like to think we're clever enough to spot a fake.
But the argument is that human vigilance is basically a failing strategy against an AI clone. You can't ask your accounts payable person to be a forensic analyst on every single email.
You'd paralyze the entire business. So the solution has to shift away from vigilance and toward infrastructure.
Which is where these email protection services come in. But we should be clear, this isn't just a normal spam filter we're talking about.
No, not at all. A spam filter is looking for, Viagra ads or malicious links. It's looking for a payload.
A virus, malware, something attached.
Right. But in a BEC attack, there often is no payload. It's just text. Please wire money here. There is no virus for a traditional filter to catch.
So how does the more advanced protection actually stop it?
It uses behavioral analysis. It's essentially fighting AI with AI. The security system builds what it calls a pattern of life for every single user in the company.
Pattern of life. That sounds intense. What does it track?
It tracks what's normal for you. What time of day do you usually log in? What country are you in? Who do you normally email? What's your writing style typically like?
So if I suddenly log in from a country I've never been to at 3 in the morning my time and try to email a client I haven't spoken to in 2 years,
The system flags it instantly. It sees the anomaly, not because the email has a virus, but because the behavior is wrong. It doesn't match the profile. It can lock the account or quarantine that email before it ever leaves your outbox.
so it's a safety net that doesn't depend on me noticing a tiny typo in an email address.
Exactly. And it also does a much better job validating the sender on incoming mail. It looks at technical things like DMRC records, which are like digital ID cards for a domain, to make sure the email that says it's from your vendor is actually coming from their server.
The source used a physical analogy that I thought was perfect, especially for this audience. It compares this kind of software to the safety gear on a job site.
Yes, that's a great comparison. A builder would never, ever run a job site without insurance, without hard hats, without checking the scaffolding.
Right, those are just non-negotiable costs of doing business. The risk of physical injury is too high.
You don't just tell your crew, hey, try to be extra careful not to fall off the roof today. You make them wear a harness.
Right.
And the argument here is that the digital side of your business needs that same structural protection. Your email system is what handles your revenue. If that gets compromised, the business can bleed out just as fast as if there was a major physical accident.
It's about shifting cybersecurity from an IT problem to a business continuity requirement.
That's the perfect way to put it. It's not just about buying software, it's about ensuring your revenue stream.
And for these trade businesses where cash flow is everything and margins on materials can be thin, losing a $50,000 payment, that could be an extinction-level event.
It absolutely could be.
Now, the source does acknowledge a barrier to all this, which is just tech overwhelm.
Ah,
You know, a general contractor is an expert in construction, not in configuring API-based email security.
and that's a totally valid fear. It's a complex landscape.
So how do they bridge that gap? The source mentions private consults, but what does that even look like? Is this some 6-month project?
No, not at all. And that's a big misconception. These modern cloud-based tools are actually very quick to deploy. The consult is really more of an audit, a risk assessment.
Diagnostic check.
Pretty much. They just look at your current setup. Are you on Microsoft 365 or Google? Is multi-factor authentication turned on for everyone? What do your payment approval workflows look like?
It's about finding the open doors.
It's finding the open doors. The goal isn't to turn the plumber into a cybersecurity expert. The goal is to set up that digital harness so the plumber can get back to doing their job without having to worry that their invoices are being hijacked.
There was one final image in the source material I want to circle back to because I think it just captures the whole problem perfectly. The idea of the ghost.
It is a pretty haunting image, isn't it?
The text says, "Don't wait for a ghost to collect the money you have already earned." It just really lands when you think about all the actual work that goes into earning that money.
That's the emotional core of it. You've done the work. You've managed the crew. You bought the materials. You dealt with the client. You've earned that reward. The idea that some invisible observer, someone who has never even set foot on your job site, can just step in at the very last second and divert all of that value, it's infuriating.
It's theft of labor, not just theft of money.
It is. And the uncomfortable truth the source makes us face is that silence doesn't equal security. Just because you haven't seen a big red warning screen doesn't mean you're alone in your inbox.
That dwell time we talked about.
Exactly. The silence might just mean they're still watching, still waiting for that perfect high-value invoice to come along.
So the takeaway for everyone listening today isn't to panic, it's to verify.
Scrutinize your infrastructure. If you're running a business today using just a standard email setup with no behavioral monitoring, you're essentially driving without a seatbelt. It feels fine right up until the moment it doesn't.
And when it doesn't, the cost is just massive.
Yeah.
Well, this has been incredibly eye-opening. I think we've successfully moved this conversation away from just scary hackers and into the reality of what this is. Industrialized, AI-driven fraud. It's a business risk, and it needs a business solution.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's a solvable problem, but you have to acknowledge it exists first.
The ghost in the invoice is very real, but it doesn't have to be fatal. Thanks for walking us through all this.
My pleasure.
And thanks to all of you for listening. Take a look at your systems, maybe change a password or two, and we will catch you on the next deep dive. Stay safe out there.